Okay, it's 4 o'clock. I'll call the Muskegon County Board of Commissioners to order, and we'll start. I know Pastor Tim Cross is on the call. There he was. Tim, are you there?
I saw him there. I don't know. He's maybe muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah,
we can hear you now.
hear you. Okay, Pastor Tim Cross of the Living Word Church, is that correct, Tim?
Yes, sir.
Okay, invocation, you're up.
Okay. Father, we come to you in the name of Jesus, and we thank you for our county. We thank you for our waterways. We thank you for the beauty in our county, our cities, the towns, the villages, our communities. We say thank you. Father, I say thank you for these county commissioners and the sacrifice that they make to serve our county. Father, we thank you for our prosecutor, our judge, our sheriff's deputies. Father, all of those that serve this county, we say thank you for them as well. But Father, in the midst of these things that we have thanks for, we also recognize that there's violence and there's been murder on our streets, numerous shootings, shooting incidents. And Father, as we have prayed, we ask you to forgive us for the violence and bloodshed. Forgive us for the drug culture and the addiction. Forgive us for the fatherlessness of homes where fathers have not been there. And Father, we ask in the name of Jesus that you would have mercy on our county and do what only you can do. That, Father, that the Jehovah Shalom, the God of peace, would come and crush this violence, this murder, this greed that has been taking place on the streets, and that you would deliver us as Jesus taught us to pray. Deliver our county from evil. Deliver us from the things that have taken place here. And Father, we thank you that your ears have been open to the prayers of your people as we prayed and we've cried out to you. And we thank you for this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor Cross. All right, the next item is the Pledge of Allegiance. If Commissioner Nash, if you could unmute and do that, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Nash. The next item is the roll call. I don't know who's doing that. Linda, are you in charge of that? Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Brown? Commissioner Brown? Commissioner Steer?
Here, Twin Lake, Michigan.
Commissioner Hubby Wright?
Here.
Location?
Oh, Muskegon State Park.
Commissioner Hughes?
Here, Muskegon Township.
Commissioner Laring?
Here in Muskegon County Hall of Justice.
Vice Chair Nash?
Here, City of Muskegon.
Commissioner Pago?
Here, Green Haven.
Chairman Skolnick?
Here, City of Norton Shores.
Commissioner Wilkins?
Here, Muskegon County Hall of Justice.
Commissioner Brown?
Here, City of Muskegon.
9 present.
Just tie it to the tipping table.
Was that Linda? Was that everybody?
Yes, sir, 9 present.
Okay, thank you, Linda. All right, the next item is approval of the agenda. I would like a motion to approve the agenda.
So move.
Support.
All right, motion by Mr. Nash, support by Mrs. Hovey Wright. Are there any comments, corrections on the agenda today? If not, we'll vote. Linda, another roll call, please.
Commissioner Brown?
Yes.
Commissioner Steer?
Yes.
Commissioner Hubby Wright?
Yes.
Commissioner Hughes?
Yes.
Commissioner Laring?
Yes.
Vice Chair Nash?
Yes.
Commissioner Pago?
Melinda, you're muted.
No.
Commissioner Wilkins?
Yes.
Chairman Skolnick?
Yes.
8 yes, 1 no.
Okay, we'll move on. The next item, number 6, is a presentation from our Director of Public Health, Kathy Moore. Kathy, you got any good news for us today?
Good afternoon, Chairman Skolnick. Yes, I believe I do. And so let me start from the beginning here. I have 4 quick slides for everyone, and happy to report that Muskegon County's positivity rate is now below the 3% at 2.8%. We have finally caught up with our region and contiguous counties. If you notice here, we're 2.8. The overall region is 2.8. The state is at 2.1%. Kent 3%. Ottawa 3.4. That, that's really, again, just a reflection of positive cases compared to tests. It's not that big of a deal, honestly. But daily cases per 100,000 residents actually puts it more in perspective compared to population. Muskegon County, we're seeing 2.2 cases per day per 100,000 residents. And then these are other contiguous counties. Hospitalization rates across the state of Michigan, 3.4% COVID-19 patients. The Grand Rapids region, which includes approximately 10 counties, including Muskegon County, is 5.2. While hospitalizations haven't caught up with the statewide average, the gap is getting smaller and smaller. So we are making progress there. And then if you look at the bottom chart here, these are the hospitalizations in Mercy Health Sherman campus, our only hospital. And as of this morning, there were 13 COVID patients and only 2 individuals reported the day before to the emergency department with COVID-like symptoms. Of those, 6 are on, of the 13, 6 are on ICU and 7 of the 13 are on the ventilator system. We haven't recorded or received a report of a COVID death in over 6 days now, and our total death number 355, and that's from the very beginning, March of 2020. So the month of June, we have recorded 4 reported deaths. This is the final slide. Our vaccine coverage now at 55.4% for the first dose, 50.6 complete. This column is a column of vaccine breakthrough cases. Breakthrough is defined as individuals who are fully vaccinated, so it's been at least 14 days from the last final dose, and then were subsequently diagnosed with COVID-19. Of those, 130 confirmed, 19 probable, breakdown by age group, and 6 of those individuals died. And then this is the 2021 VAERS data, and this is data provided by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. I downloaded this information today. And again, I want to remind everyone, this is passive reporting, so it relies on individuals as well as physicians, offices, laboratories, and the manufacturer to report to this database. And the purpose of it is to detect unusual or unexpected patterns. To date, there were 316,929 reported adverse reactions, 4,700 US deaths. And then I sorted that by the state of Michigan. Of the 4,700, 165 resided in Michigan. And then there were actually 914 of the 4,700 that did not have a state listed. And that
These are people
concludes
that
my
had the
report.
vaccine, Kathy.
I'm sorry?
These are all people that had the vaccine?
Yeah, these are reports of people who received the vaccine and then had an adverse reaction.
Or died?
Or yes, so the 4,700 would be the died. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Chair, can I ask a question?
Yes, Zach, go ahead.
Do we have any deaths or injuries from the vaccine in Muskegon County?
The ones, so there could be some that we don't know about, and the ones that we do know about would be the 6 that we have here under breakthrough cases.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Kathy, if I could just ask a quick question.
Yes.
Of the 4,700 US deaths, that represents several, do you have several 100 million doses? Do you know the number?
I don't, because what I did is I just downloaded the VARS data. And so the big denominator for me was that 316,000 reported cases.
Okay.
Kathy, Bob, could I ask a question on that?
Yes, sure, Susie, go ahead.
Kathy, does that mean the 3,000, the 300,000, were those people that actually reported whether they had a reverse reaction or they had a reverse reaction?
Those are people who reported one way or the other. So I do know a couple of people here that had no reaction, and they did go in and report it.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, if there are, well, I just like to say, Kathy, I know this, it isn't over and it probably won't be over for some time, but I just want to compliment you on the wonderful job I think you've done just as the Director of Public Health. And I did hear you on National Public Radio this week. I don't know if you knew you were on there or not, but you were.
No, I never know. But thank you.
Okay, if no
Mr. Chair, I
one,
have a question.
yeah, go ahead, Charles.
Kathy, is there any way that you can kind of somehow show us the numbers for our young people as far as vaccination results between the ages of maybe 16 to 30 and how we're doing as far as vaccination within the county?
Oh, yes, yes, yes. And I have that. I can give that to you really quickly here. So the, let me see here. I was trying to make it a brief presentation. So if you look at the age group, ages 20 to 29, we have 30.8% that has received their first dose and 25.9 that received, that's fully vaccinated. Ages 16 through 19, 34.5 received 1 dose and 27.3 have received the second dose or final dose of Pfizer because that's all they can receive. And then 19.5% of ages 12 through 15. So what I'll do, Commissioner, is I will put this in a full report and forward it to Kathy Tharp and Kristen Barnhill for distribution.
Okay. Are we working on any plans, or can you tell us about any future developments on how we're working to try to encourage them? I know I've seen that some of the states are doing lots of different incentives that have really raised their numbers up, like scholarships and prizes and all kinds of other things. But what I've heard is that their young people numbers really went up because of that.
Yeah, I'm not sure how they're doing that because we cannot use taxpayers' dollars to provide incentives. So it has to be in partnership with a private, or, you know, maybe the state rules are different. I don't know. But
So I was just wondering if there were any other plans that we had that would, it doesn't have to be that, but I'm just, you know, I know there were some great ideas that were helping other states. And I was just wondering if we had any plans countywide to, you know, to try to raise those numbers up, because 30% is still kind of low for young people. And I'm just wondering how we can get that up to maybe 50 or 60 somewhere.
So what we've done for public health is we've offered the vaccine, and there are a lot of community partners that's reached out to us and has asked that we, you know, be present at one of their events. So we've made ourselves available, but beyond that, we have very limited resources and staff to do anything beyond that.
Okay,
May I, Mr. Chair?
yes, Mr. Seer, go ahead.
Kathy, just the one question on our agenda. It says on here, Muskegon County Board has ordered mandatory face coverings for attendance at Muskegon County Board meetings. 50% boardroom capacity is set by the fire marshal, will be followed per OSHA, or excuse me, MyOSHA and MDHHS. As of July 1st, aren't those changing? Those
Yeah.
requirements changing? Do you know
Yeah,
anything about that?
so we expect we expect that all restrictions will be lifted as of July 1st. And the state, though, is still working on that verbiage or that announcement. So it hasn't happened yet, but we anticipate that it will happen July 1st.
Okay. All right. I was at a couple of different, a township meeting and also a city meeting, and pretty much they had dropped most of these, it looked like to me. So, okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, if that's it, Kathy, thank you. We'll see you next week.
Okay.
Okay, then we're going to move. The next item is approval of the regular and closed session minutes of May 25th, 2021. If I could have a motion to do that, please.
Motion to approve.
Support.
Okay, motion by you, support by Mr. Nash. Are there any comments, corrections, concerns on that item? If not, Linda, roll call, please.
Commissioner Seer,
Yes.
Commissioner Heavy Wright. Commissioner Heavy Wright,
Sorry, yes.
Commissioner Hughes,
Yes.
Commissioner Laring,
Yes.
Vice Chair Nash,
Yes.
Commissioner Pago,
Yes.
Commissioner Wilkins,
Yes.
Chairman Skolnick,
Yes.
9, oh, I'm sorry, Commissioner Brown,
Yes.
9 yes.
Okay, thank you, Linda. The next item, we have time set aside for public comment on an agenda item. If I see there's some hands up, so we'll just start. Dave Henry, if you would, I don't know who controls the mute button. You've got 2 minutes. There you go, David. Okay, it's your turn to speak.
Great. Dave Henry from Fruitport Township.
Okay,
I would respectfully request the commissioners vote in the affirmative today on CPS 2106 30 through 36. And the question has been raised, why would someone in Fruitport, which is where I live, want to pay for law enforcement in another township? Well, partly the reason for that is, in my estimation, is that unlike Ravenna, I pay 100% of their law enforcement. So it's great that some municipalities have stepped up and are willing to defer some of those costs. But I also pay taxes for things like the county fairgrounds. And I'm happy to do that because as a whole, that benefits Muskegon County. So I would trust that today that commissioners would look at the county as a whole and not in their own backyard and vote in the affirmative for this. And thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today.
thank you, Mr. Henry. Next up is Kim Arter. Kim, if you could unmute and please tell us your location. Kim, you're up. Kim, can you hear us? You're muted again. Kim, I'll come back to you. Next up, I don't know who it is. It says Eggleston Township. You need to unmute and you have 2 minutes.
Okay, thank you, Bob. John Holter, Supervisor of Eggleston Township. And I too would like to see the commissioners approve the CPS 2106 30 through 36. I'd also like the commissioners to make sure to approve the PINs, which we have been since I've been supervisor since 2012. We are currently involved partnership with the Muskegon County Sheriff's Department, but we can go back to 2017 to current. That it's been a great program for this community, and we continue to partnership with him, and we would like to surely see it kept and move forward in the future with the County Sheriff's Department. Thank you, Bob.
Okay, thank you, John. Kim, do you want to try again? Kim Arter, if you would unmute, please. Kim, I'm not able to hear. Sorry, maybe there's some, it looks like I should be able to hear you because you're unmuted. Your hand is up, everything's good. Sorry. I'm going to move on to Jeff Marcinkowski. Jeff, if you would unmute, you've got 2 minutes.
All right, can you hear me there?
Yes, sir.
All right, very good. Thank you, commissioners, for allowing me to speak this afternoon. I am the Fruitland Township Supervisor, and as a matter of record, Fruitland Township has been participating in the PINS program since prior to 2007. So every board that has been in place has approved the PINS program, and I'm asking the commissioners this afternoon to look at and approve CPS 21 30 through 36, of which Fruitland Township is one of those. We happen to be number 32 on there. And the benefits that we receive in the township are many, and they were described a little bit in a resolution that the township put out way back. And it has to do with a lot of emergency and non-emergency service to residents. And there is also a benefit that we're receiving right now is that the PINS officer happens to be a resident of the township. And they know the particular issues of our township. They grew up here, they know the issues that we have, and they're in constant contact with us. And the PINS program offers and opens up a good line of communication with the sheriff office, something that we probably would not participate in or benefit from if we weren't members of the PINS program. So commissioners, do what you do best, approve these items for the benefit of Fruitland Township and the other townships that are participating in the PINS program. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Marcinkowski. Next up is Brian McKelly. Michelle, you're on. If you would, you're welcome to speak. You got 2 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Board of Commissioners, my name is Brian McKelly. I'm the Public Safety Director for Fruitport Township. I'd like to first start off by thanking the Board of Commission, as well as thanks to Sheriff Poulin for his assistance with the recent term of events that had taken place 2 weekends ago in Fruitport Township. Our department does not have the capabilities or staff to handle that alone. And his agency, as well as others, reached out and helped us with that event, both the night of and the following days with the investigation, which they continue to do. I'm here looking for approval of the commission in support of CPS 21 30 through 36. Every agency benefits from these public safety agenda items, whether it's assistance from PIN cars, in particular, the Water Marine Patrol grant to be accepted. We have an area of Spring Lake that we cover some shoreline. We do not have a Marine Patrol, so there's a benefit to our citizens. We do receive quite a few complaints that we try to address by knocking doors, but having a vote on the water is helpful. The Strategic Traffic Enforcement Grant also allows our agency to participate with the rest of them in the county, as well as the Sheriff's Office in such grants to do traffic enforcement due to the call volume of most of the departments and staff. Traffic is something that gets done when you're not taking calls, which is a very limited time frame. This allows us to specifically target those areas. Appreciate your time, and that's all I have.
Thank you very much, sir. Next up is Karen Palmer. Karen, if you could unmute, please.
Yes,
Hey.
can you hear me?
Yes, yes, ma'am. You've got 2 minutes.
All right. I just realized I'm not on speaker. Is that better?
That's good.
Okay. Moments ago, a commissioner suggested as a response to the health director's report that there be an incentive be used. I would refer to it as a lure, a reward system to cause children to accept an experimental medical product, which is known to have caused injury, including death in both adults and children, and is not necessary for children in the first place in order for the information, according to the information that we have about COVID and its effects. This is a dangerous and ignorant, irresponsible suggestion, in my opinion, and I'm personally disgusted by it, and I felt compelled to make a statement to that end. That is all I have, and I yield. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Palmer. Okay, Kim Arter, this is your last chance. If you would unmute, you're on. Kim, I can't hear you.
Mr. Chair, we have somebody in the boardroom that would like to make a comment.
Okay. If that individual would give us his or her name.
Yes, this is Tammy. I'm a Muskegon County resident. And my question is about what's on the agenda would be the lawsuits that are coming up. I would hope that some of you would speak about the United States of America and the county or the county of Muskegon, what that lawsuit is about. And also the one regarding the John Boltholz house. I'd like to know more information on what it is about, what are the charges and what's going on. It seems like there's a lot of the county being sued by a lot of people and just settling things, and we're not aware what's going on. So I'd like a little bit of a brief of what's going on without getting into how you're going to settle it or whatever. If you could do that for us, please. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. All right, I think that's it for hands raised. Kim Arter, I'm sorry we couldn't hear you. So we'll move on. That'll be the end of public comment. We have 2 public hearings. The first is the Truth in Taxation public hearing. Our finance director, Mrs. Beth Dick, I think this is your opportunity to talk about or do we have to open the public hearing?
Yes. Bob, I'll make a motion to open the public hearing on the truth in taxation.
Support.
Okay, Mrs. Hughes made a motion to open it. Mr. Nash supported it. Are there any, this is pretty much a routine public hearing. We do this every year. I think we need a roll call vote on that unless there's some comment or something somebody'd like to say. If not, Linda, could you take a roll call on opening the public hearing for truth in taxation, please?
Commissioner Heavy Wright. Commissioner,
Yeah.
Commissioner Hughes,
Yes.
Commissioner Laring,
Yes.
Vice Chair Nash,
Yes.
Commissioner Pago,
Yes.
Commissioner Wilkins. Yes. Commissioner Brown,
Yes.
Commissioner Seer,
Yes.
Chairman Skolnick.
Yes.
9 yes.
Okay, so the public hearing is open. Beth?
Yes. I have a brief presentation and
Beth, you're muted, please. Yeah, there you
Okay.
go.
there we go. A brief presentation and then I will turn it over for public comment. Try to share my screen here. Hold on. That didn't work. Can you see that?
Nope.
Well, that didn't work then. I'm not sure why it's not sharing my screen. Kristen, if I email it to you, can you share it?
Yes.
One moment, sorry.
Beth, did you kick it?
No, I don't think so.
We've heard that works.
Sometimes it works.
Oh, look at that.
There we go.
And if you could start the slideshow, thank you. Okay. Yes, this is the 2021 Truth in Taxation public hearing. Next slide, please. Yes, the purpose of this hearing is to discuss the proposed operating millages for Muskegon County, Lakeshore Museum Center, Central Dispatch, the Department of Veterans Affairs, and the PA 39 of 1976 Activities or Services for Older Persons Act, or as we refer to it, the senior millage, and also to discuss the uses of the convention facility or liquor tax revenues. Next slide, please. The notice of this public hearing was published in the Muskegon Chronicle on June 6, 2021. The language of the notice is provided by the state and required, and it refers to increasing property taxes, which is misleading. And I'll have a slide in a minute that shows why that language is used. Next slide. The proposed operating millage rates are actually less than last year due to a Headley rollback impact. And it's referred to as an increase in the language of that public notice because typically property tax revenues are higher than last year due to inflationary increase in taxable values. Next slide, please. Normally, without this public hearing, the state would limit our projected property tax revenues to the same amount as last year by forcing millage rates down. This year, the required base tax rate fraction, which is called the truth in taxation fraction, is 0.9796. And there's a formula used to calculate that, which was presented in the meeting last month when we set the public hearing date. But because that fraction is less than 1, therefore a public hearing is required to be able to levy the same millage rates as last year. Also, without this public hearing, liquor tax revenues or liquor taxes that we receive could not be used for their intended purposes and instead would be used for general county operations. Next slide, please. Our estimated liquor tax money that we are to receive this year is $870,930. One half of that must be used for substance use abuse treatment and prevention programming. And liquor tax monies can be used to help support the Public Health and Health West Department's substance abuse prevention programs. Next slide, please. So this is a slide I was talking about earlier, what the impact would be by not holding this public hearing. Last year, our Muskegon County operating millage rate was 5.6978 mils. The reduction fraction for inflation that is calculated it was 0.9796. So if you multiply that times last year's millage rate, it reduces it to an adjusted millage rate of 5.5815, then it is further lowered by the liquor tax reduction if we didn't hold the public hearing, which that rate reduction is 0.1756. Therefore, the millage rate that we would be levying if we did not hold this public hearing would be 5.4059. By holding this public hearing, we still would start with last year's millage rate, which was 5.6978 mils. And it is rolled back by 0.9934, which is called the Headley rollback fraction, resulting in the proposed millage rate of 5.6601 for fiscal year 2021. This is the county operating millage. So you can see that by holding this public hearing, we are actually levying, would still be levying a millage rate that is lower than last year's rate because of the Headley rollback fraction. Next slide, please. And this year I've added this graph to show some historical information, and this is just the county operating millage. Historical information is not all the other individual millages, but the county went to the voters back in 1974 and was approved an operating millage rate of 6.2 mils, which is I show across the top of this graph. And I only went back to 2001 to show what the actual millage rate that we've been able to levy has been. I couldn't get many more years on this graph without it being too small. But in 2001, we were levying we levied 5.7949 mils. Then it was rolled back due to the Headley amendment impact to 5.6984 mils in 2002. And it stayed at that rate for many years, from 2002 to 2019, so 17 years. Then last year in 2020, we again had the impact of the Headley amendment, which rolled it back to 5.6978 mils. And this year, again, another Headley impact of 5.6601 mils, another reduction. So it shows that, we are well below our authorized millage amount back in 1974. And that's all basically due to Headley and Proposal A. Next slide, please. Therefore, in order to support the various budgets, staff is recommending the board approve the levying of the following millages. The county operating of 5.6601 mils to be levied on July 1st. The museum operating at 0.3198 mils to be levied on December 1st. Veterans Affairs operating at 0.0746 mils on December 1st. Central Dispatch operating at 0.2979 mils. Also on December 1st, and then the senior millage at 0.4966 mils on December 1st. And again, all of these millage rates are lower than last year's rates were. And that's the end of my presentation.
Okay. Are there any questions from the board? Then I'll throw it open to the public. Anybody?
Ms. Skolnick, I do have a question.
Yes, Mrs. Hughes.
Beth, can you tell me, you said that some of the liquor tax money can go to either Health West or the Health Department. Does the county board decide who gets the money and how much they get?
So they have to actually apply for those funds. They receive that through the Lakeshore Regional Entity. That's the money. We receive a portion, and then we have to send half of that back to the Lakeshore Regional Entity. We receive that 870,000. We send half back, and then from there, it's basically grant distributed to Health West or Public Health. They apply for those funds.
Does that only go to Health West or Public Health, not any other county?
Not any other county department?
No, any other county. Health West has got other counties besides, or the Lakeshore Energy has other counties in it besides Muskegon County. I just want to know if all of that money stays in Muskegon County.
A portion, I would have to look into what the Lakeshore, how they do that, since they're a regional entity. I'm sure they allocate money to all the different counties.
But they allocate our money to other counties?
Well, we have to send money back to them, and then they make the determination how it gets allocated.
Is it the amount that we send back to them a set amount, or can we decide how much it is?
It's half of what we receive.
Okay, thank you. Would you check into that and let us know?
Yes.
If we get all of that back, thank you.
All right, somebody in the boardroom wanted to speak.
Yeah, this is Commissioner Larian. Thank you.
Okay.
I'm wondering if Beth can give a brief description of the Headley Act, please.
Yes, so the Headley Amendment was approved back in 1978. And what the impact of that was is it basically limited the amount of property tax revenue that an entity can receive on an annual basis. And it required you to calculate this fraction on an annual basis, which is based on comparing your current year's taxable value to last year's taxable value, and you subtract losses in taxable value from your current year, and you subtract additions, or I'm sorry, vice versa. The numerator of the calculation is you take last year's taxable value, subtract any losses, take this year's taxable value and subtract any additions. You multiply that by our inflationary rate. And if that rate calculates to something less than 1, you have to apply that fraction to your millage rate. It's basically limiting the amount of millage rate that you can levy in any year. And then Proposal A, which was passed in 1994, also limited basically your ability to levy taxes either to the rate of inflation or 5%, whichever is less.
So if I understand that correctly, Mesquite County had to roll back their property taxes because of the Headley Act. We'd be overcharging the citizens, correct?
It would be going against the amendment to the Michigan Constitution that says that you would exceed the amount of revenue that you levied the year before.
Thank you.
Okay.
Chair, may I have a minute?
Yes, Commissioner Seer.
Beth, I'm just curious, you were listing the different millage amounts for the different distributions. One was like for the museum, for instance. Now, is that something that was voted on by taxpayers and that they agreed to support that millage? Is that how that works? Or?
Yes, good question. Yes, the museum, all of these millages were put on a ballot at one point in time, and some of them have been renewed multiple times. The museum, for example, that millage was recently taken to the voters in 2020. And so that millage itself will last until 2030. The veterans, that millage was also taken to the voters in 2019, and that was a multiple time renewal. I can't tell you how many times that one's been renewed by the voters. That one expires in 2028. Central Dispatch was in 2015, and that expires in 2022. And then the senior millage was August of 2016, and that expires in 2023. So yes, they've all been voted on by the
Okay,
voters.
thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, well, thank you for that. Is there anybody in the audience or any citizen would like to speak on this? Now's your opportunity. If you could raise your hand. I'm looking.
I see a hand up.
Jeff
Okay.
Marcinkowski, I think.
Oh, Jeff Marcinkowski again. Yeah, if you.
Yeah, one question, if all of those departments are scheduled to have a decrease in operating millage funds, have they been aware of it, or how is that going to impact the public sector that depends on all those? Of course, without the level of operating funds, will the level of services be decreased?
Beth, if I understand this right, they're actually not receiving, they're receiving a smaller portion, but the SEVs went up, so they're not getting less money. Is that correct, Beth?
Yes, we still get an inflationary increase based on inflation for the taxable values. So, I mean, it's just the level of the millage rate has been lowered. So there, we'll have to build our budget around what our new projected property tax revenues will look like with that lower millage rate.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I don't see any other hands. So I need, I need a motion
Yeah.
to close the
Make
public.
a motion to close the public hearing.
Okay,
for the
Mr.
taxation.
Nash.
Yeah.
Second.
Public-
Support? I don't know who supported it.
We have one other item on public hearing. We can't close the public hearing yet.
I'm gonna open a second public hearing for the.
They need to be held separately.
Okay, so Charles, you made the motion. Was there support for that?
I'll support it. Roll, please.
Okay, I think Revelstein did that. So Linda, could you do a roll call to close the truth and taxation public hearing, please?
Commissioner Hughes,
Yes.
Commissioner Laring,
Yes.
Vice Chair Nash,
Yes.
Commissioner Pago,
Yes.
Commissioner Wilkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Brown,
Yes.
Commissioner Seer,
Yes.
Commissioner Hovey Wright.
Marcia, unmute Marcia, please. Okay. just- Linda, you'll have to move on. She's probably got her feet in the sand.
Chairman Small.
Was that me?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
8 yes.
Okay, thank you. Now we move on to the second public hearing. The Timberland Charter Academy 501c3 bond public hearing. So I need a motion to open this public hearing.
So moved.
Support by, somebody's got to support it.
Support.
Okay, so there's a motion to open the public hearing by Commissioner Hughes, support by Commissioner Seer. Linda, we're gonna have to do a roll call on this too.
Yes, sir. Commissioner Laring,
Yes.
Vice Chair Nash,
Yes.
Yes.
Commissioner Wilkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Brown,
Yes.
Commissioner Seer,
Yes.
Commissioner Hovey Wright. Commissioner Hughes?
Yes.
Oh, Commissioner Hovey Wright?
Yes.
She said yes.
Oh, Commissioner Hughes?
Yes.
Chairman Skolnick?
Yes.
9 yes.
Okay, thank you. The public hearing is open. I've got a little bit that I have to read here to make this legal. And so this is a hearing for purposes of meeting the requirements of section 147F of the Internal Revenue Code regarding the possible issuance of the Industrial Development Authority of the County of La Paz, the authority of one or more series of its charter school lease revenue bonds, Campus Partners 1 project, Series 2021, pursuant to a plan of finance in order to finance costs for a project within Muskegon County, Michigan, in an aggregate principal amount of not to exceed $13.5 million. So proceeds in the maximum amount of $13,500,000 from the sale of the bonds will be loaned by the authority to Campus Partners 1 and its affiliates, all single-member limited liability companies and disregarded entities of Campus Partner 1, which we will refer to collectively as the borrower, to be used to finance or reimburse all or a portion of the cost of a project that consists of 1, the acquisition and improvement of a public charter school facility for use in its school operations at the location and in the estimated maximum principal amount listed below, the charter school facility, or 2, the funding of any required reserves, and 3, the payment of the costs of the issuance of bonds. The borrower will lease the charter school facility to qualified 501c3 entities or governmental entities. The proceeds of the bonds will be used to acquire and improve and improve the following charter school facility in Muskegon County. And that is Timberland Charter Academy, located at 2574 McLaughlin Avenue, Muskegon, Michigan, 49442-4439, at an estimated maximum principal amount of $13,500,000. Okay, now, I know that this is probably new to everybody. We have the corporate counsel on, and Mike, would you like to speak to this, please?
Yeah, so first I want to say that this is not an issuance of bonds or debt by the county. The only reason why this is required is for the tax exempt nature of the bonds issued under the Internal Revenue Code. So even though the county is holding the public hearing, the county is not issuing the bonds. It's not responsible for payment of the bonds. It has no other involvement but for holding this public hearing to comply with the Internal Revenue Code. Holly Horsley is on the line, or supposed to be on the line as well, and can answer any question. She is the attorney involved with the bond issue. But this is a technical matter for the county, not, and I want to stress, not an issuance of bonds by the county. There is no debt obligation being issued by the county here. This is solely due to the tax exempt nature of the bonds and because this charter school is located within the county.
Okay.
Chairman Polnick, I have a question if I could.
Yes, Mrs. Hughes.
I spoke with my township supervisor and township treasurer today, and they were completely unaware of this, so no information has been brought to them. And I just want to make sure that where it says the borough releases charter school facility to qualify 501c3 entities or governmental entities, the fact that we went ahead and authorized this does not obligate us to accept the lease with the charter school if they can't get anybody to run it.
No, that's correct. The sole purpose of this.
Holly Horsley.
Oh, go ahead,
Can you
Holly.
hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, that's correct. The governmental entity that's, or 501c3 entity that's listed in the notice is referring to the actual charter school because this is a multi-state project. And right now we're talking specifically about this charter school facility. Charter schools in Michigan are deemed to be governmental entities. So the lease will be with Timberland Charter Academy, not with the city or any other, governmental entity as you would normally think of it.
Thank you very much.
And
My
there's
township,
no obligation for the city in which the school is located or the county, as was mentioned before, with respect to any of this. It's just a matter of procedural matter under the tax code.
it's actually in a township, and I would like to say that my township is very happy with the school and has not had any problems with it and is in favor of this moving forward. We just had a couple questions. Thank you.
Marcia, have you right?
Yeah, charter schools have been around for quite a while, and they have not helped the situation with public schools at all. Public schools have really suffered because of all the charter schools we have. And I'm not sure why we're all of a sudden seeing this when they've been around for so long. Why is it necessary?
Well, what's necessary is that, so what's going to happen is we're issuing bonds to acquire the facilities from the current owner. We will then enter into leases to lease back the facility back to the school. They will continue operating as they were, but this transaction is going to result in cost savings for the majority of the schools that are a part of our bond financing. So, and it's a way to to be more efficient, to have more efficiencies economically, and to, just try to, we're just basically changing the ownership structure. We're not adjusting how the school's being operated or doing anything to mess with that, but this is a way that we'll be entering into new leases with the charter schools, and which will result in a benefit to those schools.
I believe, at least at the expense of public schools. I mean, somebody's paying for these bonds. Could somebody clarify who's paying these bonds? I mean, is it the
Well, the
taxpayer
schools
or
are
is
paying
it
for them through I mean, they're the same way that they're paying their lease right now. They're going to be making lease payments, and those lease payments will flow up to the bond trustee to make the bond payments. So there's no taxpayer money or anything like that involved. It's the charter school, the payments that the charter school was already receiving from their authorizer will now, instead of being paid under the current lease that they're under, they will now be used to pay the new lease payment, which like I said, will then be used to pay debt service on the bond.
Okay. All right.
Mr. Chair, a couple questions.
Mr. Nash, go ahead.
I had two questions. I'm wondering where does Heritage Academy play into this? And is the entire 13 million going to be used for Muskegon Township, or is this going to be used elsewhere?
No, the dollar amount is the acquisition price of the facility itself. And that's based on appraisal. At National Heritage Academies currently operates the school, and the intention is that after the bond issue closes, that National Heritage Academies will continue to serve in a management capacity for the schools.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, can I ask a question?
Yes, go ahead.
So I'm unfamiliar with this piece of property. Who is the current owner of it?
It's currently an affiliate of NHA, National Heritage Academy.
It is the school itself, correct?
No, the school does not own the facility.
But the school is sitting on that. The school is sitting on it.
I think what she's asking is the school, the one that's operating the school does not actually own the facility. Someone else owns the facility.
Right. But it is the facility that they're talking about.
Correct.
Exactly.
That's what I thought too. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Now, is there any
question? So,
Marcia, we got to move on here. Come on. Marcia, go ahead. I can't hear you. You're muted.
I think this is too new a concept and too complex for us to vote on today. And I would, can I move to table this to get more information? Because I don't understand it well enough to vote yes on it.
Marcia, we are not, it's just a technicality. We're not loaning, we're not borrowing, we're not using the full faith and credit. And I know you have an agenda with the public schools and you don't like charter academies, but I mean, that's
true.
It's just a public hearing.
Right.
Yes, this is a public
That's right.
hearing.
And the Muskegon County is not executing any documents or doing anything to obligate itself in this transaction. We simply have to come to you because since we are issuing tax exempt bonds, you have to have a public hearing in the location where the bond finance facility is located. So that is the sole purpose and the only reason we are having to have the hearing today. It's not because the county is obligating itself, it's not lending any money, it's not signing any contracts or has any involvement in this transaction other than the fact that we have to come to the county for the public hearing. And that is it.
Okay, is there any, are there any persons who wish to speak regarding the bonds or this project from the public that's on this call right now?
I believe we have a resident coming to the podium.
Okay. Whoever that is that's speaking, if you could please give your full name and your where your location.
Yes, hello, Tammy Barnhart again, Muskegon County resident. I too have a question about this. Is the board going to actually vote on something, or is this just a hearing for the public to be aware of something's happening? Because if you're going to vote on something, unbelievably, I stand with Marcia on this, and I agree that I, along with her, am totally baffled about what you would be voting on to approve or disapprove or whatever. I'm really lost about this whole issue. and maybe I just need a better explanation. If you could try to maybe explain a little more for me, please. Thank you.
It's Mike, I don't know, or whoever would like to just make a quick comment. This is just a public hearing. We're not voting on it.
There is a resolution which would approve in accordance with section 147F of the Internal Revenue Code, the issuance of bonds to finance a project for Campus Partners 1. The issuance of bonds, however, is not by the county. The county is incurring no debt. The county is not executing any documents. The county is not liable for any of the bond debt that's being issued. It's simply a real estate transaction entering into a lease with the charter school, as I understand it, where lease payments then would retire the debt obligation that's being issued by, I believe, the authority, which is the County of La Paz, Arizona Nonprofit Corporation, as stated in the resolution. The county's got no obligation for the debt here.
Okay, is there anybody else who wishes to speak regarding the bonds or the project? Okay.
Mr. Chair.
Yes. Mrs. Peck, go ahead.
So there's a resolution we have to vote on. If by chance this is voted no, then what does that mean? That they can't proceed with the transaction, their acquisition?
That is my understanding.
Yes. Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, I need, being that there's no more people wishing to speak and we've had our shot at it, I need a motion to close the public hearing, please.
So move, Mr. Chair.
Support.
Okay, motion by Nash, support by Hughes. Any comments or discussion on that? If not, Linda, roll call, please.
Vice Chair Nash,
Yes.
Commissioner Pago,
Yes.
Commissioner Wilkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Brown,
Yes.
Commissioner Seer,
Yes.
Commissioner Hovey Wright,
Yes.
Commissioner Hughes,
Yes.
Commissioner Laren,
Yes.
Chairman Skolnick,
Yes.
9 yes.
Okay, thank you, Linda. All right, moving on, we have the committee reports. The first is Courts and Public Safety. Chairman Pego, would you like to report on your committee, please?
Yes, thank you, sir. Okay, the Courts and Public Safety Committee met on June 8th, 2021. It was recommended and I move CPS 21/06-26 through CPS 21/06-36. We
Support.
already went over these, so I'm not going to read each one.
Support.
Okay, so
Okay,
we've had a motion by Mrs. Pego, support by Mrs. Hughes. All right, so we're voting on 26 through 36. Is there any discussion, any comments, concerns on these? Now is your opportunity.
Mr. Chair, I believe the sheriff was going to provide some information for us at this board meeting regarding the training and the doubling of the cost of the training.
Well, oh, there he is. Okay, Sheriff Poulin.
Yes, Commissioner Skolnick, thank you. I just got back this afternoon from a conference I've been at since Sunday, but I did provide that information to Commissioner Pego by email today. So I can read some of that off, or we can talk about that.
Okay.
Okay, anybody else?
I would like the information, if we could have that provided, please, about the doubling of the training costs.
Absolutely. As we talked about, typically each year we budget around $60,000 a year for booking fees to cover the training costs from what we have. That also covers class registration, meals, and lodging for the training programs that staff goes to, along with their wages. As we stated at the meeting, the Courts and Public Safety meeting, that due to the reduced number of bookings this fiscal year, we obviously have seen a reduction in the number of fees collected. This fiscal year, we've only have had to date 2,039 bookings, intakes at the county jail. And that's approximately 38% lower than what we normally see during that same time frame. This has resulted in us only receiving $15,650 in booking fees. And we all need to keep in mind that we are not able to collect booking fees from everybody. As far as the training goes, of the money that we budget, that's $60,000 for our corrections training. For this fiscal year, we've already spent $64,127. The increase in that was due to the fact of this is the first time we've done this where I utilized this training fund to pay for our staff and command school through Northwestern University. It's a 6-month program where our supervisors are gone for 2 weeks at a time throughout that period. In all, that whole program costs $15,000, but we do receive money back from risk management for our participation in that, a percentage. So we will be getting some money back. So that has to do with the increase of that there. The request for the increase in the general restricted fund is just to help ensure any training needs that we have for the remainder of the year, because we still have time left and training still will happen. I did look back at the original motion that was submitted, and our request was for $40,000, not 60. I believe that was changed by the county finance just to cover any expenses that we may have. And once again, I think it's important that any amount that's not used will be placed back into the fund and utilized in accordance with state law. And then I did list there's almost 50 classes that I list through the training consortium that our corrections officers participate in, that I sent to Commissioner Pego. And I think it's also important just to note that the Sheriff's Office has maintained 100% compliance rate on all mandated training requirements by the Training Coordinating Council. So I hope that answers your question.
Well, it doesn't totally. So you had a 38% reduction in jail intake, but yet you have a doubling of the training costs, and the two don't necessarily compute to $60,000. So there's a bit of a discrepancy there.
Right, and as I had explained, Commissioner Laring, it was lower. We didn't collect that much. If you take that 64,000 and you take 15,000 off of it for the one officer, the supervisor that was at staff and command, we initially requested $40,000, like I said, just to carry us through the year. It was just a number that was utilized, so we wouldn't have to come back to the board, at least anticipating. The money cannot be utilized for anything else, according to state law. An additional 20,000 was added to this by county finance. That would be a question for them.
Mr. Chair, I have a question for the sheriff, if I could.
Okay, Susie, please go ahead.
Sheriff, you said that you had a 38% lower intake. Can you tell me, or I don't have to have it now, but I would like to know, did you furlough any of your people during this time? And if not, why? And I'd also like to know what kind of savings you got from cleaning and food and, different things like that. What did you save during that time with that 38% lower intake? And I don't have to have it now. I just wondered.
Yeah, we can have that discussion. That's fine. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, may I?
Yes, go ahead.
Just a quick comment. I've considered a lot of, this would be on the PINS agreements. I've considered both sides of the argument on that agreement. Number one, I think it's probably the responsibility of local governments to provide, safety for its residents. And this should be high on our priority list, I would think, of services. Number two, the PINS agreements, they actually provide added revenue to the county to help support our law enforcement. Example, the townships paying their share of the cost. If this revenue is lost, the county will have to make it up elsewhere, I assume. Item three, I don't think it's a good time to side with the defund the police movement, and thereby possibly, endangering the residents of the county. So those are just my comments on that.
Mr. Chair, I do have a comment on that too.
Okay, Mrs. Hughes.
I would just like to say, my township too, We don't have a Penn's officer. We have our own police department, but our police department is very thankful for the Penn's officers that are a lot closer to us now. And we really partner a lot with the sheriff's department, not only the Penn's, but the sheriff's department is always willing to help anything in our municipality. And we're always willing to help with anything outside our municipality in any other municipalities and at the county level. So I think this is just a cooperation of our all police departments in helping all residents. I really am for this, and my township is too.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a comment and add to
Yes,
Commissioner
Commissioner-
Hughes and Commissioner
Commissioner
Sears.
Brown, go ahead.
Kim Arter was not able to get on for whatever reason, but I did chat with her, and some of you know she is the Laketon Township Supervisor and is very, very supportive of the PIN program. And this comes from the public and the communication that the Sheriff's Department has done with Laketon Township. And I believe Jeff Marcinkowski, who is also in my district, aired the same concerns and also the promotion of these programs for both of those townships that I represent. So thank you.
Okay, since everybody's making comments, I think I'm going to make a comment. I represent most of the city of Norton Shores. The city of Norton Shores represents about 20% of the entire tax base of the county of Muskegon. So we're paying roughly 20% of all the taxes. We have an excellent police department, do not use the sheriff's department. And from my standpoint, I'm happy to support law enforcement in Muskegon County. It just makes it a safer place for everybody, and it makes it a better place to live. So, okay, with that said.
Bob,
yes, ma'am.
Bob, I beg to differ with you on that. You probably don't use a Penn's officer, but I'll bet you do use the sheriff's department.
Well, we probably do, but you understand what I'm saying.
I know what you mean, but
You
that
know.
was just, you do use the sheriff's department.
Okay, you got the last word.
Okay,
Mr.
good.
Chair,
Yes, Mr. Nash.
I just wanted to comment on this because I think that the programs really do work for the county. But also I wanted to comment on the sheriff's situation. I completely understand what he's talking about in regards to those numbers. And people have to understand that the COVID situation really stifled a lot of the intakes that not only we had in the jails, but also in the prison. And I think it was for the right reasons. And, seeing how those funds were not able to be replenished through those types of bookings and things of that sort, I think it's just due for us to be able to support them in a time of need. I don't see this coming back. Plus, like you said, with less people going into the trainings, the cost went higher. So, it makes perfect sense. And I don't think this is something that is normal and going to continue on in the future, but a time when we have to have that support. But this is still state regulated and it can't be used for anything else. And having 100% compliance with training, that should also be applauded.
Okay, well, so we've had the motions from the courts and public safety. The motions have been made, they've been supported, so we're voting on items 26 to 36. Linda, could you please do a roll call vote?
Commissioner Pago? Commissioner Pago?
Yes, I am voting yes on 26, 27, 28, 29, and 35, and 36. I'm sorry, 34, 35, and 36. And I'm voting no on 30, 31, 32, and 33.
Mr. Wilkins?
Yes.
No.
No.
Commissioner Brown?
Yes on all.
Commissioner Seer?
Yes on items 26 through 34. No on 35 and 36.
Commissioner Harvey Wright?
Yes on all.
Commissioner Hughes?
Yes on all.
Commissioner Laring?
All right, so yes on 26, 27, 28, and 29. no on number 30, no on 31, no on 32, no on 33, yes on 34, no on 35 and 36.
Vice Chair Nash,
Yes on all.
Commissioner Chairman Skolnick.
Yes on all.
That's 9 yes on 26. 9 yes on 27, 9 yes on 28, 9 yes on 29, 7 yes, 2 no on 30, 7 yes, 2 no on 31, 7 yes, 2 no on 32, 7 yes, 2 no on 33, 9 yes on 34, 7 yes, 2 no on 35, 7 yes, 2 no on 36.
Okay, let me get my agenda back here. All right, the next committee report is Ways and Means, and that is Commissioner Seer.
Thank you, Chairman Skolnick. The Ways and Means summary sheet, Ways and Means Committee met on June 8th, 2021, and it was recommended, and I move on items W121/06-55, 56,
In one of the pubs, we have some
58,
big
59,
steaks.
and
That's better
60.
than these two.
I'm sorry, Commissioner
Support.
Seer, you want to, okay. Okay, so we have support from Mrs. Hughes. Okay, so now we'll discuss this. Any comments or concerns on the Ways and Means agenda items? If not, we'll have a roll call vote. Linda, please.
Who
Just to-
seconded that motion?
Hughes, Commissioner Hughes.
Okay.
Just to clarify, is this 55 through 60 only?
Correct.
That's
Okay.
what I thought, yes.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Wilkins,
Yes,
on all.
on all, yes.
Commissioner Brown,
Yes on all.
Commissioner Seer,
Yes on all.
Commissioner Hovey Wright,
Yes on all.
Commissioner Hughes,
Yes on all.
Commissioner Laring,
No on 57, yes on the rest.
Vice Chair Nash,
Yes on all.
Commissioner Pago,
Yes on 55, 56, 58, 59, and 60, and no on 57.
Chairman Skolnick.
Yes on all.
That's 9 yes on 55, 9 yes on 56, 7 yes, 2 no on 57, 9 yes on 58, 9 yes on 59, 9 yes on 60.
Okay, thank you, Linda. The next item is that I don't have anything for the chairman's report. Are there any?
Wait, excuse me. The next item is a motion to postpone full board of June 29th, 2021, WM 21/06-61, which is the issuance of a proclamation to support the nomination of Muskegon County to be recognized by the National Park Service as an American World War II Heritage City.
Support.
Or
All right, we have an item 61. We have a motion that's been supported. Are there any?
But I would just like to comment on that if I could.
Yes, you may, Mrs. Hughes.
I asked for this to be postponed because the people at the Silversides and the people at the Lakeshore Museum are making sure that we don't miss any of the points that we have to have in there to send our application in. So I'm waiting on that. We had a meeting this morning at 10 o'clock and they're supposed to have it to me as soon as they can make sure we've got all the points covered.
Thank you, Mrs. Hughes. Okay, then we'll go ahead and vote on that. Linda, we're going to need a roll call on number 61, please.
Commissioner Brown,
Yes.
Commissioner Seer,
Yes.
Commissioner Hovey Wright? Commissioner Hovey Wright? Commissioner Hughes?
Yes.
Commissioner Laring?
Yes.
Vice Chair Rush?
Yes.
Commissioner Pago?
Yes.
Commissioner Wilkins?
Yes.
Commissioner Hovey Wright?
Yes.
Chairman Skolnick?
Yes.
9 yes.
Okay, thank you,
Thank you,
Linda.
Mr. Chair. That completes my report.
Thank you. Sorry I stepped on your toes there.
Okay.
Okay. The next item is 11, Chairman's Report. I have nothing. Are there any committee liaison reports? I don't see any, so we'll move on to the Administrator's Report. Mr. Eisenbarth?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have 2 items for discussions today. The first item, 12A, consideration of the settlement agreement between the United States of America and the County of Muskegon, Michigan, which operates the Muskegon Area Transit System, Muskegon County Public Transit System regarding the paratransit services to ADA paratransit eligible person. So we'll open up for discussion. There's no motion at this time. The motion will come from the board after they hear from corporate counsel.
You have to make a motion to discuss it, don't you?
Well, what I would do is I would suggest making a motion to approve the settlement agreement, and then we can discuss it.
I will make a motion to approve the settlement agreement.
Okay, support, anybody?
Support.
Or
Okay, motion by you, support by Nash to approve the settlement agreement. Mr. Homier, would you please explain this?
Sure. So this is a case that we inherited when we became corporate counsel. So it was based on a complaint filed couple to several years ago against MATS. So the complaint was that MATS was not providing paratransit service to eligible participants under its GoBus system. At that time, the GoBus was combined on a demand responsive and ADA complementary paratransit service. The county denied any wrongdoing or liability and denied the allegations in the complaint. Notwithstanding that, it's my understanding that there was never any formal action by Department of Justice, but there were ongoing settlement discussions, and I know that Jim Coons, I think, is on the line as well and can explain that prior portion. Nonetheless, what happened then was MATS completely revamped its system so that GoBus is no longer around. What that allowed us to do then is to have further discussions with Department of Justice in resolving the issue. The resolution of the issue is frankly compliance with what is otherwise required by MATS under the ADA and providing paratransit service to those parties that are eligible, and then reporting that data that's collected, which is data that is normally collected by MATS to Department of Justice for the next 3 years. So there's no payment of any fines. There's no monetary penalty here. There is no obligation other than compliance with ADA, which we frankly have an obligation to comply with anyways. So we kind of worked in the revamping of the MATS system in terms of how it eliminated GoBus into this settlement agreement, which took some time in doing, but Jim Coons and Mike Milligan were certainly instrumental in getting this to a place where the county denied any wrongdoing or liability, but we were able to resolve the claim without formal litigation by doing what we're otherwise obligated to do under the ADA and then reporting that data to Department of Justice. Once that 3 years expires and presuming that we're compliant with our requirements or obligations under the ADA, then we won't have that responsibility going forward.
Could I make a comment on this, Mr. Chair?
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
I read all of this today too, Mike, and you know, I'm sorry that the complaint was made, but it looked to me like the Mats had stepped up and already resolved the situation and is more than willing to jump through all the hoops because there are things that we basically already did. So I'm really kind of proud of how this ended up. It's just making Mats better. And we'd already started towards that road anyway. So I'm really pleased that this worked out this way.
Okay. Any other questions? I mean, this actually had a really good resolution. There weren't any,
Yes.
there's no financial impact. I don't know what else to say.
Bob, I think it confirms that the new changes we made were just exactly what we should change to. So
Correct.
it was good for us.
Okay, so there is a motion to agree to this settlement agreement between the United States of America and the County of Muskegon for this longstanding issue. So, Linda, could we have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Seer,
Yes.
Commissioner Heavy Right, Commissioner Heavy Right, Commissioner Hughes,
Yes.
Commissioner Laring,
Yes.
Vice Chair Nash,
Yes.
Commissioner Pago,
Yes.
Commissioner Wilkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Brown,
Yes.
Commissioner Heavy Right,
Yes.
Chairman Skolnick,
Yes,
9 yes.
excellent. Okay. Mark?
Yes, 12B. 12B states that board motion to approve the resolution approving in accordance with section 147F of the Internal Revenue Code of 1986 as amended, the issuance of bonds and finances a project for Campus Partners 1, Timberlake Academy.
I will make that motion.
Is this a different academy than Timberland Academy?
Same one.
Same one.
Oh,
I think that's a typo.
oh, okay.
Second.
You know, we should make sure that that's Timberland Academy. There may be a Timberlake Academy someplace.
Should be Timberland.
Okay. So has there, you know, I was reading something. Was there a motion made for this?
I made a
Yes.
motion.
Okay, and it's been supported.
And it is Timberland based on the resolution that
Right.
was read earlier. Yes.
Okay, so that typo will be corrected in the final minutes for this meeting. All right, is there any other discussion on this? This is a legal technicality. There's no obligation for the county. It's simply something that has to be done to do what they're trying to do here. All right, Linda, roll call, please.
Commissioner Heavy Right,
Yes.
Commissioner Hughes,
Yes.
Commissioner Laring,
Yes.
Vice Chair Nash,
Yes.
Commissioner Pago,
Yes.
Commissioner Wilkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Brown,
Yes.
Commissioner Seer,
Yes.
Chairman Skolnick,
Yes,
9 yes.
okay, excellent.
Thank you. C here for discussion purposes only. There's no action required. Administration American Rescue Plan update. We have received the first half of the dollars as of today. It came in this morning, roughly 16.4 million. Obviously, that money will sit there until the board decides what's the best for us, the community, the residents. Part two of this, the feds are still taking public comment up through the middle of July, and then they'll send out clarifications of it after those public comments. And we have started receiving requests from the community. So I would like to discuss with the board how we want to handle those requests, at least requests for dollars. We'll have to figure out how much the dollars will need to be internal, how much that would qualify for the projects that are being asked to support. Do they qualify? So there's a lot of steps that we have to work through. And I would recommend at least start entertaining some of those steps. There are clarifications that are stated that will come out probably end of July or September. So we can start working through that process. The second part of that is there's no rush to spend the money. We do have 3 years to identify projects and a total of 5 years to spend that money down. I'm thinking some of you have already received a request as well, so I'd like to have your input on the best way that you'd like us to take comments on these dollars.
Mark, I will volunteer to sit on that committee if you are creating a committee.
No, I think
It
that'd be,
should be a committee of the whole.
I think it should be a work session.
That's
Yeah.
a good idea too.
That's
Yeah,
just what
I think so
I'm trying to
too.
suggest.
I think so too.
Yeah, we need to hear who has made requests, when we get the rules, what the rules are. We can't really make any decisions until we know the rules.
right. I just believe we haven't publicly made an announcement for a request, but there are several out there who've already sent in or have called and said they're interested. So I think to be fair to everybody, even internal, I think our internal will also be a presentation of what can be used internally. I mean, instead of taking the pressure off for the commissioners here, we should ask requests be sent into administration and we compile them. I think it's up to us to decide whether or not they qualify, because I think we'll see a lot of requests. Actually, a lot of requests internally don't qualify either. So there is a process to go through and steps to understand the process. There's a lot there. I think the first thing I sent you was like a 160-page document. And then we found a better document at 26 pages. And I narrowed it down to about 8-page, well, staff did narrow it down to about 8-page document of the presentation that I would do at your work session.
Perfect.
Okay.
We'll need time to read that.
Yes.
More than a day.
All right. Thank you, Mark. You'll keep us updated on that. And the
Yes.
next item is unfinished business. I don't believe there is any. So move on to new business. Does anyone have any new business?
The sheriff brought a topic that I think is very interesting, very pertinent to our discussions
Ernie?
today. The sheriff, I would like the sheriff to give him time to speak under new business.
Okay, Mr. Poulin, Sheriff Poulin, are you there?
Yes, sir. Chairman Skolnick, thank you for the time. Prior to leaving for the conference this weekend, I've been communicating and having a conversation with both Chief Sane and Chief Lewis from the City of Muskegon Heights and the City of Muskegon about those efforts we can do to assist their communities with some additional public safety needs in light of the recent increase in violent activity involving guns in those communities, including Fruitport Township itself. We've seen a pretty big increase this year, and that increase is continuing especially over the past 2 months. What I would like to ask the County Board of Commission is to allow me to either from general funds, or I can make an amendment to my budget through salary savings, so there will be no additional. I'm requesting just under $30,000, actually $29,521.68. And this will be to allow the sheriff's office to place 3 two-person units working in these municipalities for 4-hour shifts until the end of July. We will be applying for, just this last week, the Bureau of Justice Assistance announced a grant program which addresses gun violence. They are only offering 20 awards to be expected. I know the sheriff's office, both the City of Muskegon Heights and the City of Muskegon, will be applying for these grants. But really, I don't find that there's time for us to wait for the deadline to come towards the end of this month and the approval process. I would like to get on this right now to help these communities by showing support and adding staff during this period. We would run the 7 weeks and then reevaluate it at that time, or at least hopefully have this other grant from them, or one of the other agencies will also. So that's kind of it. If there's any other questions, I guess, on that or about the program itself and what we want to do.
Sheriff, I have a question on that. Would
ma'am.
that be the same type of thing as your PINS program where you had someone go in to help them? There would be a charge to them for that, or are you asking just to go in and do that?
I'm just asking that we go in there to assist them with their staff. We're working collectively with these agencies right now as it is. We have detectives utilizing resources there. We're, into our own overtime budget for the sheriff's office to assist them because they don't have the staffing for the amount of crime that's happening as far as these violent offenses are going on to address those. But, that presence of law enforcement in the communities is one of the greatest deterrents that we can have. And, by adding additional enforcement there, I know Chief Sane has an idea. He would like to put his officers with other officers from other agencies and cars together. And I think that'll be a great collaboration also, because by doing that, we'll actually get more cars in the area also. We got to keep in mind, crime has no boundary.
Certainly, right.
It doesn't follow the borders or the lines of what's going on. And, as a result, we saw that with a murder in Fruitport Township also.
Marcia.
Yeah, Sheriff, where are you seeing the increase in violent crimes? What localities?
I can't, they didn't provide me with specific locations, Commissioner Hovey Wright, but the city of Muskegon for the first, from January to June 13th has experienced 284 shots fire calls, 50 reports of gunshot wounds, 74 weapons offenses, and they've had 3 homicides in that period. If I add those with what was given to me to the city of Muskegon Heights, that'll put us at 440 shot fired calls in this period, the short period. 68 gunshot wound calls. That's 68 individuals who have been shot by guns.
Wow.
And 226 weapons offenses combined. So these are the increase in numbers of what these communities are experiencing, and I believe it's our responsibility to help them out.
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, Melinda.
I just have a question. Are these isolated incidents? Are they random? Like, what are the statistics of this? The increase that you're seeing or we're seeing?
Commissioner Pago, I guess that would be a question for those municipalities. I know some of these instances that, when I was talking about, the crime doesn't see borders and stuff, are related to one another as individuals are moving throughout the county. Some retaliation, gang activity and stuff. And that is
gang activity.
Yes, ma'am. And that's something that violent crime, if the Bureau of Justice Assistance Grant that's coming out, one of the things they identify in there is to dismantle gang activity.
Sheriff Pullen,
Okay.
This is Commissioner Brown.
Yes, sir.
How much is the state police reacting to some of this, or how much involvement are they at this point?
The Michigan State Police is 100% committed to the city of Muskegon Heights and participating with the city of Muskegon. They have staff actually that work in the city of Muskegon Heights.
Thank you.
Sheriff, I have another, or I guess this question would be for Mark. Mark, do we have any COVID funds that would cover something like this? Because I know we had some that we were struggling to find a place to put them. Is it possible to use some of those with this?
Yes, we'll look into that. Anything that we can help out these other municipalities, even for us, if we can use the funds for ourselves and to help the sheriff's office, we'll look into that.
Because I guess I say the sheriff's office is doing their best to save money on some things like they did with the cars, buying the cars. If that money is going to go back into their department, they don't want to have to use it on something, like this if they don't have to, and especially if we could use COVID funds. So that would be a great thing if we could use that.
Pull our resources together and we'll do what we can.
Mr. Sheriff Pullen.
Yes, sir.
I wanted to know with the monies that you want the county to release to you all, how much of that support, how is that going to be divided up between the 2 municipalities? And the second question I got for you is the way that this is being related to the gang violence. How do we come to the conclusion that more officers are going to help curb this? Because as you see, it's random, it's everywhere. It could show up in anybody's backyard. But with this being gang related, how are more law enforcement really going to deter this? Because I don't see how it's gonna influence the gang related activity. That's my question, I guess.
Well,
Commissioner Nash, I'll start with the second part there. As far as a deterrent, I think I've said that already. As far as just the presence of officers in the uniforms, if you look back at these 7 homicides that these municipalities have experienced so far, they are throughout at all times of the day. It's not nighttime, it's anytime specific. And with the numbers of officers that are working today, the officers are going call to call to call. And, at times they don't have an opportunity to be in the area when these violent crimes happen. So this gives us an opportunity to, one, work as a deterrent, and also a better opportunity for apprehension when that happens from there. As far as how the dollars are going to be split up through the communities, that will be based on strategic planning that we will do with the chiefs and what days. Like I said, this is only for 3 shifts per week is what it is. Obviously, we're not going to announce what days those are or when those shifts would be, but they would be made up on the needs of what the city would like us to do to help.
Well,
us.
the reason I asked that, because I know that there has been a major cut in the Heights force that's probably been over a decade, and I haven't seen that with the downtown municipality. So it seems as though we needed more support in that area than we did downtown. That's why I asked, how is it going to be split up?
This money that I'm requesting will be spent on just sheriff's office staff only.
No. I'm just talking about the staff that you would spend it on. What areas would they service? How would you split that?
Well, and that'll be developed through our planning with the chiefs.
I have another question for the sheriff. Sheriff, don't we have, don't we have a gang task force?
We have a group put together for, it's a violent crimes task force that the county has, but and we've been meeting, but they specifically, we get together and start collecting data, when incidents are happening like this and when we have an increase in crime. I don't know an agency that has the staffing levels to have this type of team just specifically, working all the time.
But you do have a team together that can help guide the municipalities through this.
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Great. Thank you.
Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair.
Bob, Commissioner Relestein has a question.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was knocked offline for some reason. I don't know what happened, but I'm back on. Relestein, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
That's quite all right. I just want to thank the sheriff for his attention, because I live in the Heights and things have changed rapidly, quickly. I mean, the streets are like racetracks. At night, there's gunfire several times during the night, and we need additional attention. I look for the police. You see 1 or 2 every now and then, but they're very, very scarce. And the state police are out there also. So whatever help we can get in Heights, and I appreciate it.
Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Mrs. Pego.
this is another question for the sheriff. So this is for additional staff or current staff we already have that's going to be utilized? Or are you hiring new officers, or where are the officers going to come from to cover this?
Commissioner Pego, this is overtime funds for our current staff. They'll be working on their off days for them to sign up for the overtime.
Thank you.
Okay, anybody else?
I just had one more question.
Yes, Charles.
And this may be for the administrator. Is it possible to have a PINS program with Muskegon Heights?
Well, I think anything's possible. So, I mean, it's just the communications with their city manager, the mayor, the sheriff, obviously works close with their new sheriff, with their new police chief over there. So I think the sheriff would have a better answer than I. He knows the new police officer better than I do, the chief.
I get, my response would be anything is possible, but that would be a discussion. Yes, sir.
Okay, one last thing before we vote on this. I've been working with Pastor Tim Cross, who approached me about a day of prayer and fasting in response to the gun violence the upsurge in gun violence that we've had recently. And I believe there was an event at Hackley Park last weekend. I don't know. I was not able to attend. I don't know if anybody here was. Commissioner Seer, you were there, were you not?
Yes, I was.
But he sent me a resolution. I'm working on it. I'm having other people look at it to try to tamp down some of the just gun activity that we've had in the county. It's been pretty bad. We've had a few weekends with a lot of it. So, all right. So,
just a comment on that really quick. It was a very good meeting. I believe we had quite a few local pastors and some of the city officials and so forth. And they all prayed and offered up to God down the county, and just basically crying out for help because we need it. And there was probably 300 plus residents there too. It was a pretty big crowd. So,
Commissioner Seer, you were one of the speakers, were you not? I was told you were.
I didn't speak. I just prayed.
Well, that's speaking. So, okay. Okay. So, are we ready to vote? Linda, roll call, please.
Mr. Chair, I don't believe we have a motion on the floor. And we also have a board rule that we can't bring these issues to a board. They have to go back to committee.
That's true.
Ask Mike to weigh in on this, please, because it's based on the emergency of the situation. Mike?
Yeah, so there is a board rule for emergencies. I believe that is Rule 6. Give me 1 second.
I believe that was based on the discretion of the chair.
Rule 6, if the board has to deem it an emergency by a vote of at least 2/3 of the commission elected and serving.
I will make a motion that since this is considered an emergency in our community, we will follow the recommendation of the sheriff.
Support.
In helping.
All right, we have a motion and it's been supported to, Mike, what we need to do is vote whether or not it's to bring this forward. Is that correct?
That's correct, and it has to be 2/3 majority.
Okay, so, all right, so does everybody understand we're voting to override the board rule that would prevent us from doing this right now? So it needs 2/3, which would be 6 yes out of 9.
Mr. I take exception to that. We're not declared, what this motion, if we pass it, is declare this issue an emergency.
Correct. And I agree. I think it is an emergency.
I think when our people are getting killed, it is an emergency, yes.
All right, Linda, roll call, please. We're voting to move this forward quickly.
No. We're voting to declare this issue an emergency, and then there will have to be a motion brought forward for Sheriff Poland's.
Okay, all right, I stand corrected. All right, we're voting, Mike, is that acceptable?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, so we're voting to deem this an emergency. Linda, roll call, please.
Can we discuss this first? Are we discussing?
You can, all right.
So I have a question. So these funds, he's trying to get this pushed through because this Bureau of Justice grant, what was the date on that grant availability? Like the application hasn't even been applied for yet. So what is the turnaround on that?
Commissioner Pego, because they just came out the end of last week. The deadline,
so-
the deadline is June 22nd for the acceptance. So then, everybody's turning these in right now. And there are only 20 wards expected as it says from there. So my assumption is the turnaround time on these is pretty quick, and we should know sometime towards the end of July or first part of August. That's why we are just looking to go 7 weeks on this. That'll get us through the end of July.
Right, and we have submitted our application, is that correct?
We have started it, yes.
You've started it, it's not
Yep.
submitted completely?
No, we have until the 22nd, but yes.
And what is that dollar amount, do you know?
So, Mr. Chair, I actually have to call a point of order. This discussion will come after if there's a motion.
It comes after? I apologize, thank you.
All right, then Linda, we'll do the roll call now and get this thing moving.
And the motion to declare this motion an emergency in order to vote 2/3 majority. Commissioner Hughes,
Yes.
Commissioner Laring,
No.
Vice Chair Nash,
Yes.
Pago,
Yes.
Commissioner Wilkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Brown,
Yes.
Commissioner Seer,
Yes.
Commissioner Hovey Wright,
Yes.
Chairman Skolnick,
Yes.
8 yes, 1 no.
Okay, so now we have declared this an emergency. So.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to move forward with the sheriff's recommendation for.
Thank you. All
I
right.
support that.
Nash made the motion.
Now we're all.
Commissioner Hughes made supported it. Okay, now we're open for discussion.
All right, I would like a clear motion read so we know what we're even talking about.
Okay,
May I help you out there? I'll say the motion is to approve an additional 30,000 in the overtime for the sheriff's road patrol budget.
Where is that money supposed to come from?
Well, if it
Said-
doesn't come, yeah, if it doesn't come from the grants, it'll come out of your reserves.
I thought he said general fund expenditure.
Well, that is our general fund expenditure.
I'd like to add to that motion for City of Muskegon and Muskegon Heights.
yes. Okay,
Are we allowed to discuss this yet?
Yes.
well, wait a minute, just a minute. So
I'll accept it.
who made okay, so Commissioner Nash, you made the motion, correct? And you accept the friendly amendment?
Yes.
And
Okay.
I seconded it.
So it's the City of Muskegon and the City of Muskegon Heights. Okay, Commissioner Pego, you're up.
Yes, so, is Beth Dick on the call? This is a question probably for Beth.
Yes.
Okay, so if this comes out of the general fund, which is what sheriff is proposing first, how are you going to allocate for that?
So the road patrol budget, which is one of the sheriff's budgets within the general fund, my understanding is he needs an additional allotment of overtime within that budget to cover this extra cost if the grants are not successful, or the applying for those grants is not successful. So
So this is just a cushion to cover in case the grant doesn't go through.
well, it would be an additional expenditure you would be adding to his budget that is not currently budgeted. So it would have to come out of general fund balance, unassigned fund balance in the end. Unless there ends up being other savings. I know he mentioned salary savings, but I haven't looked at the budget to see if there, where that might stand at this point in time.
So this question is probably for the sheriff. So are these services considered part of the road patrol then?
These services, yes, Commissioner Pego, this would be part of our law enforcement division. And as this motion moves forward, and a comment there, if I can just not limit this to the City of Muskegon and Muskegon Heights, as we have stated, crime has no borders, and we've had 3 individuals shot in Fruitport Township and 1 of them murdered. So,
All
as
right,
a result of the same violence.
You're right, Sheriff. I didn't think about it that way. I will withdraw that part of the motion. Is that all right with you, Charles?
Yeah, that's fine.
You're right. Anywhere we have an emergency, we do need it. You're right. Thank you, Sheriff.
Okay, anybody else? If not, Linda, roll call, please.
Yes. Commissioner Laring,
Wait a minute, there's more comment here. I'm not ready to vote.
No, I just asked and nobody said anything. So go ahead.
I was handed a note. So has either one of these municipalities that were first mentioned, I know Susie pulled back her friendly amendment, but have any of the municipalities, and if not, are they really wanting your support? If they are, why aren't they paying for it? Secondly, second part of that question is you already have to provide this support. Secondary, your secondary support. When they call for support, you have to provide that. So I'm unsure if these municipalities want your help, they would have asked for a PINS agreement. They haven't done that. This crime that's going on in the city of Muskegon and Muskegon Heights in particularly is new. That's been on the increase for months. And now all of a sudden we're declaring an emergency for something that didn't just happen yesterday or last week. This increase in violence has been going on for months. And why haven't they been approached for a PINS agreement for this help?
Commissioner Laring, the PINS agreement, those contracts are completely different than what we're talking about here today. The increase in violence that we're seeing today is consistent. I believe it was what we had in 2012. And back then we did the same thing where we compiled our resources together. These other agencies are putting officers out in overtime also. We still have officers that need to do their calls for service, that need to just your general patrols that are out there doing what they do. These additional patrols are specific to help reduce these violent crimes and catch these offenders who are out on our streets killing people.
So the townships have not requested any additional assistance via the PINS agreement.
I don't understand what the townships have to do with this or the PINS agreement. They haven't requested that, but these other communities that are involved in this that I'm asking right now for these dollars for the city of Muskegon Heights and the city of Muskegon and Fruitport Township. Yes, I've talked with their administrators, their law enforcement leaders, and they are looking for this type of help.
But they
as sheriff, it's my responsibility.
But they did not request a PINS agreement.
No, they did not.
Okay. Anybody else?
I have some more questions. So I don't know how to articulate this because I wasn't expecting all of this today. So I'm not sure, you did say, Sheriff, that there's a violence crimes task force. I don't know what that task force consists of or what they're supposed to do, because I don't know anything about it, but is that something that maybe ought to be rejuvenated to do this?
Commissioner
Can you
Pego,
send me-
it has, we've already been meeting. It has been rejuvenated. And
Okay.
The participating agencies throughout Muskegon County, including the state police, are involved in this.
Okay, so could you send me information on that task force? And does that task force actually include officers, or I just don't have enough information on what that task force is or what they do.
Okay, I mean, it's a group
there
of law enforcement
investigative-
administrators that address violent crimes in their communities.
Okay, so is that involve investigative work to get to the bottom of what, these incidents of the gang
Yeah,
activity is going on?
Yes, it does. And as Public Safety Director McKelly had stated at the beginning of this with the assistance that we gave before, that was our investigators that arrived to Fruitport Township, and they assisted that jurisdiction with search warrants, was the work that they did there. And then it's for investigative search warrants.
Mr. Chair, I have one follow-up question, if I may.
Yes, please.
So,
Get to them.
pardon? All right, so the services that you provided for Fruitport, there were no additional funds for that requested. What is the maximum amount, the dollar amount that you're particularly going to be asking to come out of the county budget? How much are we voting?
28, what was it?
The number that I was requesting is $29,521.68.
And that's the limit?
Yes.
Okay, and then Beth, where are we at with our reserve funds? Do we have that money available where does that take us in our reserve capacity?
We ended last fiscal year with, I think it was about a $9.6 million unassigned fund balance. And that included removing from that what we anticipated we were going to have as a shortfall for this year. So depending on how the rest of this year ends up, then it would be taking an additional 30,000 out of that. We're still within our board policy of 14 to 19% of general fund expenditures. So we're still within our policy.
So my question to Beth is, we ended last year with $9 million. We took $2 million out of that, which brought us down to the state.
A little, what's it on?
I'm talking Beth. That brought us down to 7 million in the reserve fund, if I understand this correctly. The 7 million is the state minimum that we have in that account for a reserve of the 13 or 14%, correct?
No, so we ended last fiscal year with a reserve that was right, that already had removed from it what we anticipated as being the budget approved shortfall for fiscal 2021, which was originally 1.8 million. That has already been removed from our unassigned fund balance. And even with that, we were still at, I think it was around 18.9% unassigned fund balance within our policy between the 14 and 19%. So we've already factored in the impact of what we thought the budget shortfall was going to be for this year out of that fund balance as of last fiscal year.
So if this grant is approved and the sheriff has approved this money through this grant he's talking about, gun violence grant, that 30,000 or 29,000 will come back to the general fund.
Yeah, I mean, if he gets a grant to cover it, then we wouldn't need to take it out of the general fund. We basically get reimbursed by the grant.
Thank you.
And can I make a clarification on that, please?
Okay.
Sheriff had a question.
Yeah, Sheriff, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I don't want to muddy the waters here. I am trying to address the situation immediately. We'd like to start this weekend to run for 7 weeks because I do not expect to hear back on this grant. I do not believe this grant will allow us to surplant funds. We're not going to be able to pull $30,000 out of this and put it right back into the budget. I just want to make sure you're clear of that.
What is the amount of the grant that was
That
applied for?
Yeah, Commissioner Pengel, that's going to be the grant process on that and how that works is we would send a strategic plan to them for the amount of hours and the things that we need to do.
Oh,
and all that work would have a dollar amount on it. It's not just a significant amount that they just give you.
Okay. Are we done? Linda, roll call, please.
May I confirm the motion?
Gotta vote.
She wants to confirm the motion, Ms.
Chairman,
Linda, can you, do you have the?
Mark can do it.
Yes, what I read is the motion is to approve the additional 30,000. I rounded it off. Mike had a 29,000 some number, but I rounded off to 30,000 in overtime for the sheriff's road patrol budget. And then the clarification was, Mike, you talked about road patrol. You changed that to road patrol to
Law enforcement.
Law enforcement. So I read again, to approve the additional 30,000 overtime for the sheriff's office.
Law enforcement.
Law enforcement office, thank you. Correct, Sheriff?
Yes, that's correct. Thank you. Because that'll cover both our investigators, not just those in uniform and a cruiser.
Okay. Linda?
Commissioner Laring,
Pass.
Vice Chair Nash,
Yes.
Pago,
yes.
Commissioner Wilkins,
Yeah.
Commissioner Brown,
Yes.
Commissioner Seer,
Yes.
Commissioner Hovey Wright,
Yes.
Commissioner Hughes,
Yes.
Commissioner Laring,
Thought he already voted.
I voted.
He voted.
No, he's muted. He passed.
I passed.
He voted. Oh, sorry.
I'm back around. Commissioner Laring.
I love you, Commissioner Philistine, yes.
Yes.
9 yes.
Somebody else voted.
All right. So, Mark, are you done?
Yes, I am done.
Okay. And there was no unfinished business. That was new business. Now we have time for public comment. Is there anybody from the public who would like to make some comments?
We have somebody approaching the podium in the boardroom.
Oh, wonderful. Okay.
Yes, Tammy Barnhart, Muskegon County resident. Just about this last emergency thing you just voted on, did the public not have an opportunity to comment or ask questions before you all voted? Yes or no, I don't know.
We don't answer questions in public comment. It's just a comment.
Apparently you don't answer questions at all, Susie, because I asked earlier a question about another lawsuit and we're being ignored. The public is always being ignored. We come here, we asking questions respectfully, calmly, and we get no doggone answers from any of you. I wanted to know what about it was that other lawsuit, and we wanted to know about this. Are we allowed to comment on that or not? We're just being ignored, and a lot of us are getting pretty tired of it. Another thing I want to try and comment on here is, oh geez, I'm just so frustrated. Is yeah, you don't answer our comments. Or you don't answer our questions, and it's really frustrating. And actually, Susie, you voted on this indicating that there was that there was people being killed. Exactly how many people were murdered or killed? As far as I recall, that what I heard, which we can't hear very well because you aren't even coming to work and being here, and all of this online stuff, some people cut in, cut out. We can't hear things very well, and this is a poor way of doing business. But how many were actually killed? I thought he said 1, but I could be wrong because I couldn't hear really well. Anyhow, I'd like to know also is when are y'all coming back to work? I totally, completely commend these two commissioners that are here to work, and I appreciate that you're coming to work, Commissioner Wilkins and Commissioner Laring, and for weeks now you've come into work, and I appreciate that. And I'm sure that the constituents that you serve appreciate that. And I'd like to know when the rest of you all are going to finally come to work. And when are you going to open up the county building again? This job sharing support just to try and get the unemployment is ridiculous to keep this going. The science by the own representative that came earlier today proves that there is.
Mrs. Barnard, your time is up. I'm sorry. Thank you. Thank you for your comments. Anybody else?
Yes,
Kim
there's
Arter's
another
on
one.
again.
Okay, Kim Arter, let's hope this works. You got to unmute, Kim.
Can you hear me now, Commissioner?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, wonderful. I don't know what happened, technical difficulties. I just want to let county commissioners know, thank you for passing the PINS program. As far as Layton Township's concerned, this is an extremely important program for us. And we've been doing this as far as I've been here for 12 years. It's worked. I don't see anybody subsidizing this. We are working together as partners, as PINS has stated. I know it puts these extra officers on the road that may not be in their budget to do that. And our officer here, they go to other emergencies in other areas. 2 years ago, our officer that was in Layton Township went to an extremely dangerous situation and worked with that situation. He ended up being Officer of the Year for the state of Michigan. So we do appreciate, and I thank you very much for passing this.
Thank you, Mrs. Arter. Okay, is there anybody else?
No, I do not see anybody.
Okay, then we'll move on to final board comments.
Yes, can I, Mr. Chair?
Absolutely.
Okay, so, there's a social justice commission that meets, usually monthly. I started attending those last year before COVID hit, and then COVID hit, and they hadn't met again in person until, last month, a few weeks ago. Maybe it was this month. I don't know. It was a few weeks ago anyway. And so, and I know, I think the sheriff is on the line and maybe Pastor Cross and a couple others. So they have a community faith initiative that's conglomerated by a bunch of different organizations through the community. As you mentioned, Chair Skolnick, they had a prayer initiative this Sunday. I'm out of town this week, or I would have been there. So anyhow, through those troubled communities, the city of Muskegon, Muskegon Heights, they have several different entities that try to come together to give these kids that are maybe disadvantaged throughout the summer things to do. And they've identified, the commission, that through the faith initiative, faith-based programs is where there's a break in the community, and that seems to help the most. Personally, I believe, and I ran on this last year with the Republican contract that we signed, actually, is that we identify that fatherlessness and a breakdown of the traditional family unit, it really is a crux of a problem. We have a sin problem, a natural sin problem, all of us, but it seems to be worse in more areas where there's fatherlessness and a breakdown in the family unit. I'd like to ask my fellow commissioners and anyone else on the line. I'm a member of a Christian ministry called Pilots for Christ International Michigan chapter based in Fremont, Michigan. And we do an aviation boot camp every summer. And it's a day camp, July 12th through the 16th, I'm sorry, this year from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. It offers the opportunity for kids age 8 to 18 to get into Bible study with Christian principles throughout the day. They learn about science. They're going to build their own drone and take home. And they also get a real ground school of aviation training. Every day they get to fly up and take and actually log that. The sponsorship that I'm asking for one student is $125. And I'd like for everyone maybe to contact the Social Justice Commission. And I've reached out to them today so that we could maybe provide these kids in those lower income areas an opportunity with something that they might not normally be able to do, and give them something positive to go to for the week, and also learn some Christian principles that they might not otherwise also have. So I can forward everybody information on that later. I just wanted to bring that up. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else? All right, before we move into closed session, I apologize. I am not going to be able to join the closed session. Just so you know what I'm doing, I'm a judge for the Miss Michigan contest, and the organizational meeting is tonight, and I can't really miss it. I apologize. Charles, you're okay to do that, right?
Sure, no problem.
Okay. All right.
Charles, would you rather go to the other thing and let Bob be here?
Well, I did it before. No, I'm just kidding.
I hate judging the Miss Michigan contest.
Yeah, I bet you do.
But it's something I have to do. So, okay, Charles, you want to just take over, and if I can be excused, thank you very much.
Take care, Bob. I guess we'll need a motion to go into closed session.
I move that we enter into closed session to discuss with our attorney trial and/or settlement strategy in the pending lawsuit with John Bolthouse versus Muskegon County, case number 1.21/CV281, because discussion open to the record may be detrimental financial effect on the litigating statement position of Muskegon County, and also to discuss material exempt from disclosure under attorney-client privilege.
It's been moved and supported. Is that accurate, Mike?
Yes.
All right. So we'll need a roll call.
Vice Chair Nash,
Yes.
Commissioner Pagan, Commissioner Penfield,
Yes.
Commissioner Wilkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Brown,
Yes.
Commissioner Steer,
Yes.
Commissioner Covey Wright,
Yes.
Commissioner Hughes,
Yes.
Commissioner Laring,
Yes.
yes, one excused, and we're in closed session going to.
Hold on. We're not- let me do this.
I accept the motion. Go back in open session.
So moved.
We got a second.
Second.
Been motioned by Commissioner Harvey Wright, supported by Commissioner Doug Brown to go back into open session. Any questions, discussion? Roll call, Madam Clerk. Roll call, Madam Clerk. I think, is it Kristen? You're unmuted.
I think we lost the
Hey,
sound in the
give us a
boardroom.
second, Charles.
I'm here.
Oh.
Commissioner Pago,
Here,
For voting yes or no?
Go into open session.
can you
correct.
state the motion? Oh, to go into open session?
Open
Yes,
session.
sorry.
Commissioner Wilkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Brown,
Hey, did we just went and do a breakout and some of the people left?
Is everyone still here?
I'm here.
Something just flashed on about a breakout session.
Yeah, I know. it. What's
That
up?
was me. I pressed
That
the
was me.
wrong thing.
It was
Oh.
actually Kathy. I apologize. I hit the
Oh,
wrong button.
okay. Okay.
okay, Commissioner Brown. Commissioner Brown. Commissioner Seer
Yes.
and Commissioner Seer,
Yes.
Commissioner Harvey Wright,
Yes.
Commissioner Hughes. Commissioner Hughes. Commissioner Laring,
Yes.
Vice Chair Nash,
Yes.
and Commissioner Hughes. I have 7 yes.
All right. Okay, we're back in open session. Now we need a motion.
Do what, go home?
Well, I guess I'll make the motion to accept the attorney's recommendation for settlement in the Boathouse versus Muskegon County.
Second. Copyright.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Not roll call, Madam Clerk.
Commissioner Wilkins,
What, I have a question before,
Go right ahead.
what are we actually
Hey,
voting
wait,
on now?
Commissioner Relestein, you got to speak into this mic.
Oh, okay. Yes, I forget, I got to speak halfway across. Yes, what is this motion?
This motion is to accept the attorney's recommendation for settlement that we had discussed in closed session.
The answer is yes, that's very clear.
Commissioner Brown,
Yes.
Commissioner Seer,
Given that the AG is probably going to follow up with these people, I'm going to say yes.
Commissioner Harvey Wright,
Yes.
Commissioner Hughes. Commissioner Hughes,
Did we lose her?
Commissioner Laring,
No.
Yeah, we lost her.
Commissioner Pago,
No,
I'll try Commissioner Hughes,
She's trying to log back on.
should I wait or continue?
I'll go ahead and vote. I'm gonna vote yes.
Okay, Vice Chair Nash, yes. I have 1, 2, 3, 5 yes, 2 no.
And that motion passes. I guess, is there anything else? I believe we're done with all our comments and responses, so I'll set the motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Support.
Been moved and supported. All those in favor, use the vote to say aye.
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 Opposed? That motion passes. You guys have a great week.
Thank you.
And that is something I need you to sign.